Hello, and welcome back to Building with Why. Today, we're going to talk about SharePoint, Microsoft Forms, dates, and arrays. All great stuff. Let's get started. To start with, we're going to have a form. And this form, just a simple improvement form. It's going to ask for the name of the user, just a simple text, date submitted, the department for the user, which is a choice field, what the idea for improvement is, the date that's needed, and this is not a required field, and a cities field, which is a multi-choice field. And then the user can hit submit. And I've gone ahead and set up a SharePoint list, and it has all of these fields in it also. It has a name field, department, and this is a choice field. You can go in here and look at it. It has all of the choices based off of the departments that were in the form. An idea text field, date needed, cities. Once again, if we go in here to edit, it's a multi-select choice field. And I'm also including a department lookup field. And so we'll do this both as a choice and as a lookup field so that you can get a feel for how to do it both ways. So we're just going to go to new flow and automated flow. When a new response is created, new improvement form response. Okay, we'll pick an ID. Form response. Get our response details. Improvement form. Then we'll use the response ID to get the details from there. Let's go ahead and save this. And now that we've saved the trigger, we're going to go ahead and submit this form just so that we can trigger the form and so that we can use that in the future. So use Jeremy, date submitted. Let's say Friday. Say that I'm in IT. Idea for improvement. We'll say make more videos. And date needed. We're actually going to leave that blank actually. And we need to make videos in San Antonio, Las Vegas, and Chicago. And hit submit. We can see that triggered the response. And we can see that we got all of our data that we submitted, which is great, but that doesn't actually do a whole lot. So let's go ahead and edit this. So at a base level, we want to save this to SharePoint. So SharePoint, create item, name, department, value, idea, date needed, cities, and lookup. Okay. Name, what is your name? Department value. So with SharePoint, writing in the text value that matches with a choice will match it up and cause the choice value to be written in. So since our choice values match up with what our form values say, we can just simply write in our form values. And we're going to leave it like that for right this second and hit save and test. All right, and we failed. So why did we fail? We failed because our date needed is a blank value, and it is trying to format a blank value into a date range, and it can't do that. See, required to be of a string date time, and it can't do that. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to understand what date needed is coming in as. So if we go to raw outputs, we can find our date needed in the body. And this is going to be our date needed field. We can see that it's coming in as a string, and it's coming in as an empty value, right? So there's nothing in there. It's just an empty quotes. Okay, so it's important to understand that it's empty quotes and not null. Okay, there's a couple different ways that you can approach this. I'm going to approach it by inserting a condition step. And I'm going to do this because it's a little bit easier to see what's going on and understand what's going on if you insert the condition. You don't have to do this with a condition. You could do this with an if statement, but an if a condition makes it a little bit easier to see what's going on. So date needed is equal to, and I'm going to put in string is equal to that. Okay, so that's just going to be the string empty quotes, right? And if that's true, we'll leave that blank. And if that's false, then we're going to put in a compose statement. Name the compose statement date needed. And we're just going to put date needed into the compose statement. And instead of date needed here, we're going to put that compose value there and save. All right, test. Okay, and this one it ran successfully, right? You can see that it saw that it was a true value, that our date needed value was a empty value, and so it didn't go to the false. And so that when it goes to create item, it's looking at date needed, but date needed is blank. It's not trying to format a empty text value. It's saying there's no value to enter. And if we look at our SharePoint value, we can see wrote our name, our department, our idea, and our date needed is a blank value, which is what our form showed. So that's great. All right, and let's add in our next value, which is going to be our multi-select. So that's our cities. So you'll see that our multi-select is going to want to be in an array value. So if we go and we select, it only shows a date needed as showing that, and it's not seeing the output of our form as being an array. Let's go look at our response output and see what does our response output look like. Okay, so you can see here that our response output here, it looks like an array from here. Okay, unfortunately, that Power Automate does not interpret that as an array. It's going to interpret that as a string. So if we come in here and we add a compose statement, and say cities, and call that cities. Even if we try to add that, and save that, it's not going to work. All right, it's in a string. It's not in an array format. Okay, so we need to get this into an array. All right, so how do we do that? So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to replace. All right, so we saw that our data was showing up in a string format. Okay, and so this is what we're really going to see, right? It's going to be string, and we need to get rid of the open and close brackets, and we need to get rid of the excess quote marks. All right, so to do that, we're going to use some replace statements. So replace, put cities. We'll start with the open bracket. Just we're just going to use a open and shut quote. And unfortunately, Power Automate doesn't let us replace multiple things inside of a single replace. So we're going to have to nest replaces inside of each other. So we'll do another replace. And this time we'll do the close bracket. It'll be the same thing. And then we'll do the third replace. All right. So how do you replace a quote? Well, in order to replace the quote, you have to put it inside. You still have to put it inside of the single quotes. Okay. And even if you're doing a replace of single quotes, right, you want to do it twice. All right. So if you're going to replace single quotes, you put in the single quotes twice in order to do that. Double quotes is just you use your double quotes. All right, you hit add. That will get us a string value without the extra characters that we want. But that's still not an array. Let's split that. And we know that it's comma separated. So we'll split it off of the comma and click update on that. So now we get an array and it's split on the commas. Okay. Now we can go into cities, enter an array. Cities is our output. Hit save. And this is actually an array, so it will save the values. When we go to test, we get a bad request. So why is it a bad request? Well, it's a bad request because if you look here, it says field 5.1, field 5.2, etc. And it's looking at San Antonio, Las Vegas, Chicago. It's like, that's not really what it wants. So what does it really want? Well, if you look up here, this gives you a clue, right? So this is our other choice field, and it wants the value of the field. So we need to show it that, hey, the value of the field is equal to San Antonio, Las Vegas, and Chicago, and then it'll be happy. Okay. And also, if you look here, looks like we didn't split or we didn't get rid of our open quotes. So we need to fix that too. All right, so let's go in here. Let's look into here and get rid of that. Click update. So in order to insert the value there, I'm just going to do an apply to each. Given the number of steps in here, it's not going to take all that much time. You could do this with a select statement also, but for what we're working on right this second, an apply to each will work. Okay, so you work on the outputs of your cities there, and then on the inside of it, we'll put a compose statement. And then we'll just have a little array statement that says value. And then we'll put the item, current item there. And we'll put another compose statement. And we'll change the name of this to each city, and we'll say all cities, and this is just going to be the outputs of each city. And you go to the settings, set concurrency 20. It's going to happen instantaneously since we only have 5 maximum cities right now. So now we go to create item and change our cities to our all cities output. Save that. And there you have it. Our test was successful. If we look at our new SharePoint entry, is once again our dates needed is blank, which is fine. That's expected. But we're getting San Antonio, Las Vegas, and Chicago, which is what we expected. All right, so the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to do that lookup column. So I have a SharePoint list for departments. So we're just going to do a get items, user departments. Departments is equal to, and then what is your department? And then we'll rename this department. This will be useful if you're trying to build data that is referencing other data, right? So if you have data like who is the department head, right? And you don't need to reference that specifically in the form, but now with the lookup field, you can push that data into your SharePoint list also. All right, so okay, we want the first record. We only need the ID field. And if we go to get department, body value, so that will input the rest of that, click add, and that saves that piece. Okay, so you can see that that was successful. And you can see that I was successfully able to link our IT department record to this list. And there you have it. Saving a form to SharePoint, text fields, date fields, choice fields, multi-choice, and lookup fields. Of course, you don't need to ask your users for their names because you can use search for users and get their names directly from Azure. And that's way easier and less painful for the users. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. See you next time. Thanks.